let's go ahead and go into another area. One of the main areas I wanted to talk about today had to do with the mechanics of manifestation. Because what I found through my work is that literally everybody who comes to me, their situation can be simplified down into one basic premise. They're coming in with one reality that they don't like as much, and they would like to have a reality that they like better. So whether we're talking about relationships or wealth or health or spiritual development or whatever, it still comes down to this simple premise of how do we get from where we are to where we want to be. And one of the really interesting questions that came up earlier had to do with free will and determinism. So that kind of ties into this. I'm just making sure I'm covering everybody's questions. Okay, good. Yes. Okay, very good. So yeah, free will and determinism. And I think I'd like to answer that question right now because it sort of ties in. And that is, from my perspective, it is a matter of how we align ourselves. It really is a matter of perspective, basically. That if we're looking at reality from the level of, the most relative level of creation, then things happen. And we don't have control over a lot of things that happen. We have control over how we respond to those things. But as far as whether it's going to rain today or be sunny or so many different details of life, that's already predetermined. Somebody else, on some other level, some bigger, wiser, more profound level of creation, that's all being worked out and structured. And so there's really very little that we as humans can do to change or control that in any way. And so that's one perspective. From another perspective, there is no part of this creation that we are not connected to. From that deeper, more inner orientation, our source is the same as the source of the whole universe. So what I've noticed as I've been working with people over the years is that every soul, if we look at the spirit level of the physiology, which I tend to divide to 8, and the spirit body would be down here at the subtler end of the range. In the spirit body, I've been with people and we've followed back the story of their lives through their human lives, through their earlier than human lives, back. And what I found is that all of the stories, although different, tend to have similarities. And I realized that there were epochs in the history of the universe that have kind of made these indelible marks on our soul that are the same throughout these various epochs. And remember, I mentioned how time is circular. Even though we've lived through some particular period, that period is not lost to us. Just like when you were in college and you were learning, those years of learning continue to serve you even after you leave college. So those early periods in our history when our souls were not in human bodies, those periods still have a lot of really interesting, valuable, experiential gifts to give us. And if we go back far enough, all the way back to the beginning, when the creation was folded in on itself, and it decided that it wasn't going to be folded in anymore, and it just started to it didn't really explode yet, it just started to poof like this. It started to poof up. So when it got to the poofy stage, there was already at that stage something really amazing was happening, which was awareness of self. There was an awareness. That's when our identities, our individualities were literally born, is when the thing that was like this went to that point. It hadn't even done anything yet. It was just kind of poofy. Okay, So from that point, we were not separated from anything in the whole universe. All the power, all the energy, all the opulence, all the love, all the whole history of the future of the creation was totally known to, we were living that it was contained within us. We were living that reality in a very concrete way. And you still own that. You still own that. That part of you that knows the whole history, and that means the whole history, even the part that hasn't unfolded yet, was contained within you and you knew it. What happened after that was also very interesting. But I think I'm going to go into that in a little bit. But anyway, because of that, there's a part of your own being who sits at the point before manifestation occurs. It sits right at that point, and it is always with you. It is a constant. It's like the fact that you were born in this body. That means in this whole life, you're in this body. You were born as the whole universe. And so the whole universe is you, right? So from that level of one's own being, the unfoldment of creation is not seen as predetermined and out of the range of our control. It is understood as an expression of our own consciousness or intelligence. And from that level, there is free will. There's a certain amount of free will. And we're going to really talk a lot more about that in a few minutes. So anyway, I hope that answers that question, because I love that question. Okay. And if not, ask it again. I'm happy to answer as many times as you want. We'll just keep doing it. Okay, so yeah, the next part I wanted to talk about was that process of manifestation. So, okay, you know, if we accept that we were somehow born with the universe, and it's our birthright to be able to have the experience of engaging with the mechanics of creation and really understanding in a very complete and refined way, concisely how the laws of nature, which are really the laws of our own being, give rise to specific results on the superficial level of life. By understanding that, then to be able to utilize that information to give expression to the full potential of our lives and our being, and help the whole world and the universe. So I'm just checking because I'm thinking there could be a healing in here. I didn't write it on my list, but I'd like to do something with that. Feels like it. Looking into the group, thank you. Everybody there. Oh. So I'm just feeling, now I'm feeling the releasing of some, okay, right. So the point is coming up from the group that one of the reason that we're not manifesting everything instantly right this very second that we want to manifest is because we want it to go slowly enough that we can really savor the process. And we also, there's a really dynamic and really interesting give and take between the way we as individuals interact with that manifestation process. We are literally changing it or causing it to evolve in its own way as we go along. So I guess that ties into the idea of the free will, right? Because we're like affecting that change. But also, as I said, it's like we're wanting to slow it down a little bit. So that's good. Okay, good. Okay, good. And what I'm feeling right now is just like some little adjustments in the energy frequencies, just to make everything flow even more sweetly and smoothly and deliciously for everybody. Good. Thank you. Okay. Next. So, all right. So let's kind of break this down now and then talk about the mechanics of manifestation. We start, anytime you're going to manifest anything, you always start with yourself. You start with your own idea of what it is you want to manifest, right? So you're not going to manifest anything without first the idea. And you don't have the idea without first having the sense of who you are. I'm checking, I'm getting a few different impulses of information coming in, so I'm checking which direction to take this. Okay, so another healing it's been offered that another healing should come next. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to talk about the relationship between, we have to do this before we can go to the manifestations. Okay, you'll understand why. We want to talk about the relationship between three basic areas that we are working with as ourself. First, of course, is the body. And we know that bodies have been around a long time, a lot longer than conscious minds. So our bodies come from a very ancient tradition, at least within the context of earthly bodies, very long ancient tradition. And our bodies contain a lot of really deep, deep wisdom. Very essential. Like our bodies know how to heal themselves. That's really cool. The conscious mind might not be really like clued into every detail of that, but the body knows it. Female bodies can create children. Wow. So the needs and desires, but if we're talking about desire and like what we're going to manifest, the needs and desires of the body are super simple because the body just wants to be comfortable, basically. It wants to have enough food in the belly and rest in the night and, feel good. That's all. So, reproduce, whatever, to enjoy life. The mind, or the conscious mind area, has a little, so the body's vision, it tends to be quite immediate, right? Like, am I comfortable now? Whereas the conscious mind vision tends to be a little bit broader. Most people do tend to think in terms of their lives. I'd like to, in my life, I'd like to visit nice places. I'd like to have lots of friends. I'd like to, whatever, make a family or be happy and whatever. So the conscious mind has that kind of scope or range of looking at the whole life and wanting to have fulfillment, wanting to live the full potential that is available or accessible within the context of this physical form. So when you have the body and the mind integrated and conjoined so that they're on the same page and the immediate desires of the physiology are aligned with the long-term desires of the mind, then we have a combination which is supportive of evolution. That makes sense, right? Like if you think about, say, addictions or something. Maybe the body has an addiction, so it wants, a cigarette. But if you look at the mind, the long term of that is that, wow, that really wouldn't actually be so good for my long-term health and well-being, right? So you want to get everything aligned. So the body wants healthy food, the body, and so forth. Okay, you get the idea. As we're doing this, I am monitoring your physiologies because you may remember me mentioning in one of my YouTube videos that there's this cord of light that runs from the crown of the head down through the body and into Mother Earth. And it serves, in the video, I think I mentioned that it serves the function of being the eliminative part of the healing mechanism. But it also has dual functions. And one of the interesting things about this cord is that it has a little structure in a fine, like sheath-like structure in it that I call the inner compass, that kind of keeps us oriented in the direction of our future. And what I'm doing is I'm cluing into everybody's inner compass as we're talking. Thank you. Oh, yes. Do I love you guys? And just making sure that we've got right now the body and the mind are lining up so that the desires of both are going to support your full potential. It's like tuning a string on a violin, right? First, you've got to get the A string in the A position. So that's like the body is basic. Then the violinist goes down to the end. He tunes that little peg down there at the end of his violin as he gets it tuned up to A. But then you'll see them go up to this little tuner right up under their chins that they can't even see. And that's like the God presence right up there. That's the part of you that's not looking out just for this lifetime, but is looking out for the entire range of the expression of this being that is you. It sees all the way from the moment of the unfoldment of the singularity all the way through to its collapse back into itself. And when we're talking about a journey of billions or trillions of years, if the alignment's off even a little bit, it's not going to sound right. That violin's going to not be with the rest of the orchestra. So we want to, right, thank you. So I'm feeling a big upswelling of energy now coming up through the group. And it's interesting because I'm feeling that energy coming up through, okay, with Tina on those cords of light. And I was going to say coming up through Mother Earth, but I'm feeling it coming in from cosmic directions as well. And what's happening is an alignment with the presence of God in each one of us. And what it's doing is it's such a delicate energetic movement, but it's realigning those inner compasses so that everything is straight up. So even after 1 trillion years, you are still hitting your mark. The vision there, the body likes comforts, the mind wants to be happy. The God presence wants complete union. The God presence wants to be one, wants the whole universe to be one, wants, it has the ability to see you as an expression or a vessel for divine intelligence to express itself. Oh, cool. Somebody's like walking in my house. Hello. Sorry. Do you mind closing the door? Slightly unprofessional here. Please excuse. I have a family. Welcome home. Thanks. Not that the neighbors would mind too much, but hey. Anyway. All right. Let's just make sure. Let's make sure their compasses are totally aligned. Now, the thing about this is that all the laws of nature that determine how and administrate the whole universe and determine how the laws of nature are going to give rise to the whole creation, what this does is it aligns you with those laws of nature so that you have like a true star within you. You have the ability to look within yourself and find that place, this cord is like in the core of your body, that will tell you without a question of a doubt if you are making a decision that is in your highest favor or not. And that you can trust that your highest favor is also in the highest favor of the rest of the creation. That means win-win situations all the way around for everyone. Right, thank you, very good. Okay, so we've been talking again for a few minutes. Any questions on that? You don't have to, it's okay. But I don't want to be too boring, just be the only one talking. No questions? It's all clear. Cool. That's great. It's clear for everyone. Okay, we're going on. Moving on. Okay, so someone asked me recently, we were talking about wealth activations, and they asked me, why is it that sometimes people can be really wealthy, but they're really not that nice people? Like, how could they be so powerful as to be able to manifest huge, huge wealth, and yet sort of like not be nice people? And what I realized is that the mechanics of manifestation are not, they don't take any special favors. They just work. So whether a person's a nice person or not a nice person, it doesn't matter. But the reason we did this whole activation of the inner compass, this alignment of the inner compass, was because we know that you could manifest $1 billion and be not a very nice person who would use it to not be nice to people, or you could manifest it and be a really nice person. So why not every single thing that you ever manifest can, when it comes into you and you use that thing, you use those mechanics of manifestation, that you don't have to worry or be concerned that somehow you'll make a mistake and somehow someone else, could not benefit from it or something like that, right? So that's why we did that first. Now the next step is to introduce you to the fundamental moves or processes for manifesting. So remember I said we would go back to those early times in the universe? Here again, for those of you who are, if you're feeling comfy, discriminating different layers of your being from the abstract range of creation to the concrete, you can go in and kind of feel your way into that spirit level of the physiology, because that's where, that's the part of our being that connects us to the whole range of the universal expression through time and those chords. And okay, so we were talking about how the singularity was folded in on itself and then it started poof. And then we realized, oh, it's like we woke up, oh, I exist. And then there was this time like right after the poof where it like still was kind of like in itself, but it was coming out, where it was a period that was like drenched in the most warm, luscious, brilliant, beautiful, loving light. The whole field of the universe was totally protected in its own way and just precious. Like when I go back there, that's like probably the most primary feeling is just absolute preciousness. Oh, yes. Question? Okay, I will do that. Can I just finish this one bit, then I'll go to the question. Thanks. Okay, so in that field, in that moment, sorry, questions coming in. Okay, good. So good questions that relate. Question, is the Big Bang and the awakening of consciousness the same thing? Answer, as far as I know, yes. Okay, old beliefs. Right, and Tina, okay, so I was thinking, that's kind of, there's a kind of personal question up, so I might text that answer. Or just refer to it without posting it. How's that? Just so everyone has privacy. So one of the reasons we wanted to kind of open up with an activation for the ancestors is because, remember, a lot of these people were living even before there was any conception of a Big Bang, right? A lot of them were living before, at a time when it would have been impossible for them to wrap their awareness around what we're saying. So some of them are having to relax a little bit. I just want to make sure that some of remember, a lot of our ancestors believed that the earth was about a few thousand years old. The universe was only a few thousand years old. And it's well known that we all are on the same page with this. But if they're not feeling comfy, then they can kind of block that flow. Yes? I hope that answers. If not, we can do more later. All right. Coming to this point that the Big Bang unfoldment of consciousness, to this early point when everything was in a very fundamental state. There was a simplicity in everything. And there were still identifiable locations, including what we would call today as the Akashic record, or the kind of the archival history of the creation. Back then, it existed as a series of templates. These structures, very simple structures, all of them very simple, all of them not looking particularly that very, very different from one another, really. but they were the essential constituents or building blocks of a lot of the manifestations that we have now. And they're within the realm and access of our beings. And so I would like to make sure as a group, like we're kind of on this, like we have our little sacred space, right? So it's kind of like the spaceship, our little sacred spaceship. It's going to move back into that period. We're going to catch one of these channels of consciousness or streams of consciousness from the level of our spirit bodies and follow that back to that early time, the very, very early source time where these templates can be found. I know some of you have worked a little bit with templates, but there's so much potential in this that it doesn't hurt to reiterate the information and to give you more detail. So in the space where these templates can be found, there are structures, like building structures. Think of them like building blocks or Legos or something, which organize their way into that alignment of the inner compass that we worked with before. They organize their way into your being. You can choose or select any template you like. And you have to realize they're templates literally for anything that you would like. For example, I was thinking the other night about what an amazing manifester Walt Disney was. You know, he built, when you get out of your car, I don't know, probably a lot of you have been to Disneyland. When you get out of your car at Disneyland, there's somebody there in like a cool costume, or you get off the bus or something, in a cool costume saying, "Welcome to the Magic Kingdom where dreams come true." And it's like, whoa, from that point on, nothing is the same. It's all Disneyland style, right? So when we went through the History Museum, I learned that Walt Disney had built a home right on the main street of Disneyland. So here's a guy, he not only built his own home, but he built the entire neighborhood around his home, like a city around his home. And that's really amazing that he was able to do it. And when we think about Disneyland, there's like a specific feeling of Disneyland, right? It's like the Disneyland feeling. It's like when you get out and they say, "Welcome to the Magic Kingdom where all your dreams come true," where dreams come true. It's like you get this feeling, and that feeling doesn't go away the whole day that you're at Disneyland, right? So that's an example of a template, kind of a concrete example. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, anyway, if it doesn't, shoot me a question. But that when I say templates, that's what I mean. I mean structures that are comprised of feelings. For example, when you think to yourself, if a person thinks, "Oh, I'd love to fall in love with the person of my dreams," there's a feeling with that. There is a specific feeling of what that person of my dreams would be like, you know, or that level of beautiful communication and coordination between souls and, you know, and getting along and helping each other, and two people can lift something heavier than one person can lift, like that. So that then can become the seed. That becomes the seed. It's a template. And of course, obviously, since love relationships are present at every level of creation, everywhere from two atoms who come together and share an electron, all the way up to galaxies going into a little cosmic love dance or whatever it is that they do, we know that that impulse or that feeling is basic to the creation. So when I look at the templates that are in this space at this early time in our beings, which still exist in your causal body, the memory of all that is existing there, they remind me a little bit of babies. If you put 100 babies in a row, let's, you put 100 babies in a row, and then you put 100, like 70-something, so people in their 70s in a row. what you'll notice is that even though every mummy can tell her baby different from the next baby, the truth is that the range of difference from one baby to the next baby isn't so much. But by the time they get into their 70s, you have these amazing seasoned faces and personalities that have come to the foreground of the physiology. And there's really there can be a huge range, you know, from people who look like they lived really well and they took good care of themselves to people that were all feeling ill and unhappy or whatever. So the templates are like that when we find them in their seed form, they tend to be like babies. They're kind of simple. But when we bring them into these physiologies at this particular moment in creation, they take on a character all their own. And so it's nice that, you know, we have that kind of inner alignment so that the character that they take on within us is one of being able to promote maximum well-being, maximum expression of our full potential, and maximum support for the rest of creation, and continue to take us in the direction of unity.